Mwiriwe neza mwese abari hano, bayobozi b'inzego nkuru z'igihugu cyacu, bashyitsi, bandi muri hano, hari abashyitsi b'inshuti z'u Rwanda bari hano, abahagarariye ibihugu bijyanye n'imiryango mpuzamahanga, inshuti nyinshi zindi zacu banyarwanda mwese. Mpereye ku byo Jean Damascene Bizimana yari amaze kutubwira, biriya ni ubuhamya bw'ukuri, ni ukuri kutazahinduka. Ariko rero niba abahakana amateka ibyabaye bitabatera isoni, yewe wowe twagirira iki ubwoba bwo guhangana nabo? What Jean Damascene has just told us those are facts. Facts of our history, facts about what happened and the responsibilities thereof. For those deniers, if they have no shame, why should I have fear? Ndabashimiye mwese kuba mwaje muri uyu muhango, nubwo yari inshuro ya 27 twibuka abacu, ntabwo uyu muhango tuwufata nk'ibisanzwe. Buri gihe utwibutsa byinshi bikomeye. Kugeza uyu munsi turacyabona imibiri y'abajugunywe mu byobo hirya no hino mu gihugu. Abakoze aya mahano barakidegembya hirya no hino ku isi. Ariko ntabwo twakwemera ko uburemere bw'ayo mateka buduherana. Ikindi kandi ni inshuro ya kabiri kwibuka bibaye muri iki gihe cy'icyorezo cya COVID-19. Kuba tudashobora guteranira hamwe nk'uko bisanzwe birongerera agahinda abarokotse jenoside, kandi ukwihangana kwabo no kudacika intege ari byo biduha imbaraga zo gukomeza kwiyubaka no kubaka igihugu. Turabashimira inkunga yanyu no kwihangana no kwitanga kugira ngo twese tugire ejo hazaza heza. Kongera kubaho nk'igihugu tubikesha abanyarwanda benshi bashatse kubaka u Rwanda rwiza rubabereye, bakanga kuba ibikoresho by'abayobozi babi. Amahirwe yo kubaho mu buzima bwiza bayabonye bayafatishije amaboko yombi. Iyi ni inkingi ikomeye mu bigize imbaraga zacu. Kubera izi mpamvu no mu bihe by'ibibazo bikomeye n'abifuzaga kubarangaza no kubatesha igihe, Abanyarwanda barushijeho gukomeza kunga ubumwe. Nta kindi gihe u Rwanda rwaranzwe n'ubumwe no kureba imbere nk'ubu. Aha ndavuga cyane cyane urubyiruko, ari narwo rugize umubare munini w'abaturage b'igihugu cyacu. Iyi ni nayo mpamvu abashaka kuducamo ibice no kudutesha umurongo bananiwe kandi bazakomeza kunanirwa. Ahasigaye nabasabaga ngo munyemerere mvuge mu rurimi rw'amahanga n'abashyitsi bacu bashobore gukurikirana cyangwa se abatari kumwe natwe bari hanze, ngira ngo mbwire bumve. Kwibuka challenges us to reflect on the context of the present moment, as well as the cumulative history that has led us here. Rwanda may not yet be wealthy and or fully healthy, and we have vulnerabilities and limitations like any country. But we also know how to deal with our problems. Rwandans are resilient, and we are full of purpose and hope. The immensity of what has been achieved is almost miraculous. The results are attested to by Rwandans and indeed indisputable. First, there are the tangible signs, things that we can see and feel. new buildings and roads, better hospitals and health centers, water and electricity services where they never existed before, visitors flocking to see Rwanda's unique wildlife and enjoy hospitality. But the intangible transformations which have taken place in the hearts and minds of our people are even more important. They allow progress to be sustained from generation to generation. Our unity and nationhood, which continues to grow, the trust we have in each other as a people and in our leaders and institutions. Positive mindsets of creativity, accountability, and self-reliance. The satisfaction of seeing Rwanda's story serve as an uplifting symbol of renewal, even hopefully beyond our borders. The collective self-assurance that comes from the spirit of Agaciro, which inspires everything we do. The Rwandans of today have gained a lot, which means we have something precious to defend. This requires constant vigilance, along with a commitment to introspection and honesty. Decades, even centuries of progress can be wiped away in the blink of an eye. We have seen examples in different societies around the world, no matter how advanced. I know for certain that Rwandans will always be ready to protect what we have built without hesitation or apology. Like every country, Rwanda has the right to use all legitimate and lawful means to counter attacks on our people, no question about it, and the principles of our Constitution. Whenever possible, we bring those who threaten our country's peace and security to justice. The rule of law is not up for debate. In fact, there are several trials underway in our courts involving various armed violent groups. You know, it's funny because among those who are undergoing trial, there are those who have been living outside. protected one way or the other. And it is all connected with the story of denial, of distortion, of fabrication, of all kinds of things. It's interesting to find that when these trials are ongoing, for some, especially those who are hosting these people, the issue is not what they did that they are being tried for. The issue is how they got here. Fine. If they got here the wrong way, we can still talk about that. There's no problem. We can talk about how these people got here. But shouldn't we concentrate also on what is more important? That is why they are being tried in the courts of law. You know, it's not too complicated to understand that, but you can figure out for yourselves why it happens that way. Maybe we'll get to understand more as we go on. Rwandans believe that our country cannot afford to allow such dangerous games against our people to be played on our territory ever again. When the line into violence is crossed, there is also a remedy for that. Most of these actors sought international relevance by killing innocent people and threatening our economy. Unfortunately, this strategy of attention seeking has sometimes worked for them. You know, some of these people are out there in places where they have a lot of lessons for us as to what is democracy, what is freedom, what is all kinds of political and civil rights. At the same time, they embrace these people, protect them, defend them, speak for them, because they are saying these are people who want to civilize Rwanda and bring it closer to that level where we are not. Now, many times we have I'm trying to get to the bottom of the question I would ask. Why is this? Why does it happen? Maybe we'll come to it later, but I just want to tell you a few things. There are a couple of cases where we told their hosts, the hosts of these criminals, that those are actual criminals. They have either killed our people, they have stolen, they have raped, they've done all kinds of things. And we have asked them to try them. And no, they say, no, these are critics of leaders of Rwanda. These are people who are fighting for freedom, for rights of all kinds. Now, what is interesting again, it doesn't take very long before they actually realize what we are talking about, because a couple of them are now serving sentences in those countries. They're in prison for actually having done some of the things we told these people that these criminals have been known for. And in the court, these people, it's really very interesting. When they're being tried out there, in Europe, in America, in different places, still in the court, even with evidence that these people have either raped or stolen the money in those countries, they still say, no, it is actually President Kagame who is sending his agents on different things. They are the ones, but I can't. How can I send somebody to come and give you instructions to rape and you rape? How can I send somebody, an agent, to come and ask you to steal and you steal? So if there are cases you need to sort out with Rwandan leaders, that's okay, but you first answer for those cases. So, and then we go back to these people, friends we talk to every day, say, well, but we told you. Still, they will not believe us, even when they have seen this. You heard the other day when the person who was brought here, and the question is how he got here, not how he was associated with, was leading a group that was killing people here in Rwanda. You saw how others still in those countries, when somebody testified in the courts here and confirmed what they were being accused of and said they were planning it outside where they lived, recently one or two people came up and said, yes, that is true. What the other one said in the court is true. In other words, he's admitting that they are actually doing these things they are accused of, but it's like they are saying, well, but here we are protected, nothing is going to come, nothing is going to happen to us, and maybe you're also not going to be able to bring us there, where you have brought that one. So you can see how disturbing this is, but yes, we fully understand the world we live in. So disgraced former officials, motivated by petty resentments, have spent years cultivating influential foreign gatekeepers with a flimsy campaign of lies. My friends, you can tell any lie about me. You are free to do so. You can pile up tons of lies. It won't change me. Absolutely not. It won't change this country to be what you want it to be. It doesn't matter how many lies. That I can promise you. When the storytellers happen to have been born in the right kind of place that is out there, their impartiality and integrity is simply taken for granted, just by where they are born. Whatever they say against you is supposed to be taken for granted. It has nothing to do with the facts. But it only has to do with the fact of where this person is born. These are the places where most of these problems come from. Falsehoods become facts, and the victims become villains. Acts of terrorism are portrayed as principled expressions of opposition and dissent, while Rwanda's response is singled out for criticism. Let me tell you this. We will be happy to be criticized for doing what we have to do and believe that we have to do against these acts against us. Are these really the people who represent the universal values we all claim to espouse? It is outright wrong. It's wrong. It can't be otherwise. We are left wondering how many bodies there have to be before we are seen as having the right to take appropriate action. Do you remember the famous interview in the old days, 1994, where people had problems of naming what was happening in Rwanda at that time? Some people are struggling to call it genocide. Well, today we have another struggle. People are struggling to call it now genocide against the Tutsis. But the problem of definition started way back in 1994. Or just simply naming it what it was. And somebody, I think a journalist asked somebody and said, because you're saying, do you now call it genocide? The other one said no. He said it is acts of genocide. Then the journalist asked, how many acts of genocide does it take to call it genocide? Do you remember that story, or that interview? So it is surprising that we still have the same discussion 27 years later. It's amazing. Meanwhile, specialists and human rights groups remain silent about the obvious dangers. Reluctant to say anything that might be seen to vindicate the Rwandan government. The cynicism and hypocrisy reflected in such bigoted narratives is breathtaking. And on our African continent, Rwanda is hardly the only target of these tactics. It is something we do not deserve and will not accept. Recently, a commission of historians appointed by the French government released a detailed report after reading official archives that had remained secret. The report shows that President Mitterrand and his closest advisors knew that a genocide against the Tutsi was being planned by their allies in Rwanda. Just what Dr. Bizimana said. Despite that knowledge, the president decided to continue supporting them because he believed this was necessary for France's geopolitical position. So Rwandans' lives were just pawns in geopolitical games. We welcome this report because it marks an important step toward a common understanding of what took place. It also marks the change. It shows the desire even for leaders in France to move forward with a good understanding of what happened. And we welcome this. We welcome this. We are going to have the report presented to us, and we have been informed about it, and it's a good thing. Rwanda will also have a word to say in the near future. In fact, it is maybe around the third week of this month. The findings we have in our hands, based on the work that has been done by people who are commissioned to do that, almost similar or parallel to what was being done in France. The findings go in the same direction. The important thing is to continue working together to document the truth. This is the truth. The decades-long effort by certain French officials to cover up their responsibilities has caused significant damage. History was falsified by promoting the lie of the so-called double genocide, including with the mapping report. Fraudulent court cases were launched in Europe against our officers and officials. Genocide suspects were granted safe haven, and Rwanda's extradition requests refused. And this was not just in France, it's just because I was talking about the report. Even in other capitals of those developed countries. We know of cases that have gone on for close to 15 years. There are places where there are about 4 or 5 genocide suspects. Files are very clear. We talked to the country hosting them. We begged them. I said, case files are ready, they are here. Can you please give them to us for trial? The answer was no, we have no extradition treaty, we have this, we don't trust your courts, we don't trust your laws, we don't. Okay, we said, fine. We needed your trust, but you don't want to give it to us. Fine. So, can you try them in your courts of law? Because if you have a problem with our courts, you don't have problems with your courts. And then even after that request, they still have excuses for not. And it continues and goes on and goes on. But at the same time, these are people who have all kinds of blame to level against us. And you say, but why don't you do that? Are you not ashamed of protecting genocide suspects? Covering up for them for any reason? Okay, if you said you don't want me to try them, why don't you try them? It's the same people who question the use of genocide against Tutsis. And by the way, that I think genocide, which was, we are not the ones who invented it. This word was coined by some other people long ago, long before our own tragic situation. But somebody says, you know, we don't want to accept that this is a genocide against the Tutsis because peacekeepers died, foreigners died, Hutus died, everybody died who was killed. I mean, so look, even if you thought those were your facts, the facts, how does this stop isolating this case and treat it the way it should be treated? And then you can come up with your long list of other cases to deal with. So I don't doubt these people's capacity or logic or anything. No, it's something else. It's like saying, no, let's not try this guy for the crimes he committed. Let's deal with the case of how he got to this court. Let's forget about that. So we have a long way to go. So when these genocide suspects are granted safe haven and extradition requests refused, it has a direct consequence. And we have seen a massive increase in genocide denial and revisionism, which will take years to reverse. Well-known publishers release books accusing the RPF itself of having masterminded the genocide in order to take power. This is what I think Dr. Bizimana earlier on referred to as well. What is even more disturbing is that too many people who know better prefer to stay out of it by keeping quiet. A few years ago, a country, I remember, issued a statement to mark the commemoration of the genocide. This was really supposed to be, normally on this day, we can get a statement of solidarity or not. If you don't send us a statement of solidarity, we won't complain. Really, we don't complain. But a country issued and sent us a statement of solidarity, supposedly, but they said, well, you know, we are with you, genocide, so on and so forth. Then it started, there were more chapters about human rights violations, about governance, about, in the same solidarity message. So I took time and wrote back and just placed one request, simple request. I said, you know, this day, 7th of April, is a commemoration day. And it's just one day in 365 days of the year, just one day. So I asked them, I said, can't you spare us just this one day? And then for the remaining number of days, 364, you can write anything you want. You can abuse us, insult us in any way you want for the rest of that year. I said, but spare us this day. Fortunately, I think they got the message. So they have learned to separate. But there are others who don't learn. There are others who don't learn and who maybe on the way are their statements saying the same things. But we really have space to accommodate that as well. And surely, and yet, despite a unanimous resolution by the United Nations General Assembly, there are still one or two countries which stubbornly refuse to use the phrase genocide against the Tutsi. In the whole of the General Assembly, they have that understanding and agreement except one or two. Just as they resisted using the word genocide that I told you of in 1994, until it was too late. Then they came back to the word itself. But we heard that, I think some people had a problem that if they called it genocide, then it puts a heavy burden on them to act, to stop it. So they were really trying to avoid the heavy burden of stopping it by refusing to call it genocide. But it's interesting how history repeats itself. So we have almost gone full circle. From 94 to now, we have a repetition of questioning words and definitions and all kinds of things. It is as though this simple recognition of what the word should be would be a reward bestowed on Rwandans in exchange for good behavior in their view. In their view, you behave the way they want you to behave, and then they'll give you a gift, a reward of recognizing what it is. What a shame. But I don't think we cannot respond to blackmail on such matters of principle. Unfortunately, a new generation of Rwandans in the diaspora, this is a really small group, who have no personal responsibility for what happened in 1994, draw on these accounts to repackage genocide ideology as a critique of governance and human rights. And they're picking it from there or being supported by that. For us in Rwanda, we are not being held back. We move forward. There is no difference so big that a hand extended in good faith will not be reciprocated. That is how we Rwandans are, who our history has made us. But the currency of forgiveness is truth. We cannot get tired of talking about the realities we have lived. On this most solemn of days, I wish to close by thanking Rwandans for remaining dedicated to the task of unity and reconciliation. We also thank the many friends around the world who have joined with us over the years. Not only that, let me again for the story I told you earlier. While people are having problems of calling what it was genocide and so on and so forth at the United Nations, among those having problems at the time, even being the Secretary General of the day of the United Nations. You know, some amazing countries and their representatives stood up and stood out and said no. And said, this is what it is. And one of them is an African country that we shall always be proud of, a good friend of ours. One of them, represented by a man I remember called Gambari of Nigeria. Nigeria stood out and said, no. Said there is a problem there and we must call it what it is. And Professor Gambari was there and Nigeria was, no, we shall always be proud of Nigeria. And then there was Czech Republic, there was New Zealand. These countries you do not think about first when it comes to, there's a tendency to always think about these being, in some sense, countries. But so that is what we will always be indebted and thankful to some of these people across the world who really. Let me end by telling you something I remembered, and I end from that. When we were still young and going to primary school, I remember being told a story of the lion or leopard and the sheep. They told us there was a stream of water, like a river. The lion was upstream, was drinking water. And then downstream there was a sheep drinking water as well. So when the lion recognized there was a sheep nearby, and the Lord said, looked for a quick excuse to go at the sheep and have it for its meal. But they first had a conversation. So the lion called out the sheep and said, hey, you see, I'm here drinking water and you are just busy making it dirty. So you're making dirty the water I'm drinking. And the sheep humbly said, but sir, I'm downstream. Where I'm drinking the water from, even if I was making it dirty, it's not coming up to you, it is continuing the way. So the lion got angry, said, felt provoked. Said, how dare you answer back to me like that? You are even abusing me. The sheep said, I'm really sorry, I didn't want to abuse you, I'm not abusing you, forgive me. Said, even the other day, actually you abused me. Then the sheep says, no, but sir, it's the first time I have come to drink water from here, so it's not me. And the lion said, you see, you're really, annoying me. If it's not you, maybe it is your brother, your sister, or you, who was here, how? So I say, no, sir, I'm not even aware of my sister or brother that came here. I have come from so far away, it's the first time. So the lion, of course, went for the sheep. I'm telling you this story because sometimes we are treated like this story suggests. There's somebody up there saying, hey, you're even abusing me, even when you have not talked to them. As if it is not you, it is your brother, it is your mother, it's your sister, it's your what? I said, no, sir. I think some people have been doing that to us. But let me tell you, don't ever accept to be sheep. I don't even aspire or want to be this kind of lion. I'm going to be happy being who I am that will challenge this lion. Thank you very much.
Twongere tubashimire kuba mwabanye natwe kuri uyu munsi. Ku Banyarwanda n'inshuti z'u Rwanda mwese mwadukurikiye, dukomeze kwibuka twiyubaka muri iki cyumweru cy'icyunamo. Nk'uko bisanzwe, ibikorwa byo kwibuka birakomeza mu gihe cy'iminsi 100. Twubahiriza amabwiriza yo kwirinda coronavirus kuko abacu bifuza ko tubaho. Dukomeze kuba hafi abarokotse jenoside yakorewe Abatutsi, twibuke twiyubaka.